Hello, my name is Steve, and I'm going to talk about APBAGo. I am currently playing in Percy Ashcroft's Almost Made It APBAGo tournament. I'm using the 1927 St. Louis Cardinals, and I won my first couple games. And in my third game, I lost to Mike Kerr and his 2017 New York Yankees. I will probably have that game running here on the background, and I lost, I believe, 6-4 in 10 or 11 innings. It was at least 11 innings because the starting pitcher can only go 10 innings, and after that you can just use a reliever until the finals of the tournament. And my relievers, I only have one, and he's a D. At least he's the only pitcher I have with an asterisk. And all my other pitchers that pitched in relief also started games, so they don't have the dual grade, because when APBA cards pitchers and gives them their grades, if they have the same letter, they don't get the asterisk if there isn't a differentiation between their relief grade and their starting grade. And typically, if they do have the dual grade, the relief grade is at least a letter higher. There is some differentiation in the master game grades, I believe, but I typically don't play the master game except for baseball for Windows. So I don't know a whole lot about that. This weekend we had a lovely storm here, and about 3:37 on Saturday morning we heard this loud crack, and my wife and I both looked at each other with startled looks like, "Are you okay?" Because it sounded like it struck the corner of the house, when actually it struck a tree about 15 feet off our deck, and it's the biggest tree in the yard. And I may have pictures I can show where it shows the lightning strike that cracked the tree from the highest branch down to the base of the tree, and there was little wood fragments all over the deck, along with about a 12-foot splinter that's leaning out of the tree, that if you're not really sure what you're looking at, it looks like a branch. In the aftermath of that lightning strike, we lost our router, so I spent a good part of Saturday afternoon going to a store and replacing the router. I also had to replace at least one of my Rokus, and we're one of the many families that have cut the cord, mainly because we just don't watch a whole lot of TV aside from what we can watch on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, and then there's some stuff we watch over antenna, but that is very, very infrequent. I subscribe to MLB.TV and typically watch that on my Roku, or I have a couple Fire Sticks. And when I'm watching it on computer, I use the Opera browser because it has a built-in VPN, so I can use that VPN to watch the two teams that I follow the closest, the Atlanta Braves and the Cincinnati Reds, and they're blacked out for the area where we live. If I lived about 15 minutes south, which was probably about 5 miles as a crow flies, I would be able to watch most of the Reds games, except of course when they play the Braves. Anyway, that's typically what I watch on TV in the baseball season, is baseball games. I have a TV that I have hooked up that I watch baseball games on it, and then I have 3 or 4 computer monitors that I use with. One of them I have with an Apple TV. I have one with a Roku, uh, one of the older Rokus, and I also have a couple of little adapters that I use that are HDMI to VGA, and then with the VGA cables that I probably originally used with those monitors, I use that adapter so I can plug it into the Roku or the Apple TV and use it with my old computer monitors, and that way I can actually, right now I have games from yesterday. I have the White Sox and the Mariners. I have the Brewers and the Dodgers, and the Cardinals and the Cubs. And earlier I watched the Giants and the A's. I watched the condensed version of the Nationals and the Braves because there were several rain delays and it kept just saying weather delay, so I didn't want to sit through all that. I also watched Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, as well as Boston and Detroit, and the Mets and the Yankees. So typically, I don't miss a whole lot of baseball during the season. I enjoy it, and as you can't hear, right now I have the one game that I can play sound with. I have the sound muted just because I'm making this vlog, podcast, whatever, I don't know. Whatever I'm doing. I didn't want the extra sound in the background. There was some ambient noise, and my Amazon device may talk to me at any given moment, as we experienced previously. But anyway, I just recommend, everybody seems like you have to upgrade a computer every 3, 4, 5 years, and generally with that it involves upgrading the monitors, and instead of just throwing the monitors out, that's kind of my way of, I guess, recycling. And as I've upgraded Roku devices and actually acquired some Amazon Fire Sticks and a Fire TV, it's just ways that I can watch baseball, and it's really not costing me much of anything aside from, I think the adapter was $14, $15 through Amazon, and I just recommend that if you enjoy baseball. And I know yesterday all of the MLB TV games were the free game of the day, so I don't know if they do that every Sunday, or yesterday was just a halfway point Sunday where they said, hey, we're halfway through the season, we're offering the MLB.TV package, more than half off, I believe. So, if they can entice some people to watch that, maybe they decide, hey, I want to watch this, because, there are people that live in markets where their favorite team is not blacked out, so that would be something good for those people to do, to watch their games. I was also going to mention my storage for my APBAGo. I've got some pictures I'll post to show, and I got a couple, actually was able to acquire 3 cabinets on Craigslist. It's probably been 4 or 5 years ago now, and it was in north of Atlanta. Actually, I think it was near Alpharetta, and we drove down there in my truck and were able to put these cabinets in there in the truck, and had to tie them down with some ropes, and were able to get them back home. And they work well for storing some of my APBAGo sets. They're probably 6 foot tall by 4 foot wide, and they sit 3-4 inches off the ground, so a large portion of that I'm able to use to actually store cards and season sets. I have several, actually have some basketball sets and some hockey sets, and then I have probably more football sets than either of those two. And I have baseball sets going back to 1901, including the 1883 set that they made available a year or so ago. And I've got several of the sets in some of the APBAGo storage boxes. I have some in some plastic Rubbermaid type containers that are, I think they're kind of classified as a shoe type box, because that's kind of the size they are. And then recently I've got about 50 boxes from some website, I can't remember what it was, and because I was using the APBAGo boxes and they had changed the size, and now I'm not even, they may have gone back to the preferred size on the APBAGo website, but they had gone to a larger box that was good for the taller envelopes, but most of my sets are not taller envelopes, so I didn't like the bigger boxes because it took up more room than I cared for in my cabinets. So I got some boxes that are kind of a 4x6 size, so I can lay the envelopes down, and it works well. Especially I use some Avery, I think they're 8163 labels, where I print some labels, and I've shown the labels before that I put on the boxes so I can identify them. I put one on the front and one on the side, so if I turn the boxes, I'll still be able to have a label facing outward, so I can locate a season rather quickly. And it works well. I stack them up, and I've got shelves, so I don't have to stack them more than 2 or 3 high, although on one of the cabinets I do have them stacked fairly high, and I try to reserve those for the plastic storage boxes that I have, because I feel like they can stand up to the weight of having the boxes stacked on top of them. And like I say, it works well, and it's pretty easy to get to. And it also, in my area that I have downstairs, it's kind of my man cave, with in 2010, I believe in 2011, about 11 months apart, we had a couple of tornadoes come through, and we were fortunate that we were spared any damage aside from a piece of corner molding coming off our house. But we had a couple months before replaced the roof on our house, and maybe that was why we were fortunate enough not to have any roof damage. But in doing that, we moved our bedroom downstairs, because our house we're at the top of a hill, but the house kind of goes off the back of the hill, so that the part where the bed is pretty much underground, and we felt that would be safe if one of these storms hit in the evening, which we were concerned that's what was happening this past weekend, but it was downgraded from tornado warning to just severe thunderstorms. But anyway, that's how we deal with that, because when I was actually working third shift at the time, and woke up at the end of the tornado and walked out back and saw the trees all blowing sideways, and by the time I got dressed and went out the front, the storm had cleared. The neighbors were coming out of their house that were home during the day, and the roads were pretty much impassable because trees were down in the road. So the previous year, when the tornado hit, it hit about 8:30 in the morning, and my wife was at the doctor, and she called and wanted to make sure I was okay, because they had gathered everybody at the middle of the building, and she wasn't able to get to work after her doctor's appointment. She was able to get home, which was good, and there were some trees across the roads, but they were actually caught on power lines to where they didn't fall all the way down. And she wasn't given any choice but to drive under it, which probably wasn't the best thing, but that was the only way she could get home. And on the other tornado that happened in 2011, she actually wasn't able to come home until the following morning. And she stayed in a hotel with her grandmother and aunt, who also lived in the area, so that worked out well. And we were able to meet the next morning and actually went and met at a local restaurant and just got us some hot food, because with the power out, we weren't sure how long we would be without power and just cooking on the grill. So we were able to, I guess, take advantage of that and kind of have a breakfast date, which was kind of nice. But anyway, that's my little man cave area is also part of our master bedroom. It's the picture I showed previously that had the Topps baseball things on the wall. Those were actually above the bed. And anyway, it's just the big downstairs. I guess some people would call it a great room, but since we have had tornado experience previously, that's where I keep my APBAGo stuff down here, because I feel like it would be preserved along with us and the dogs if we did have a storm hit. And anyway, that's, you know, where we are. I also wanted to mention that last week we were watching the All-Star game, and I really liked the hats that the teams were wearing, and liked a lot of the hats, not just the Cincinnati hat, but Cincinnati is my favorite team, so my wife bought me this hat and got this in the mail today, and it's I think it's a pretty sharp looking hat. And she said she also got me got a couple other things to get free shipping. So she got her something and said she got me something else, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. But anyway, I just wanted to say a few things, and hopefully in the next week or so I can finish working on the setup I have down here to where I can start taping games or recording games, and I'll have figure out a way to set up my cameras and well, my iPhone and iPad, and maybe another camera that I have to where I can record the cards and the dice and probably the book, and I may or may not record my nappy head on that. But of course, I don't know if it's politically correct or incorrect for a late middle-aged white guy to refer to himself as nappy-headed. I know that got Don Minus in some trouble, but he was referring to people of a different ethnicity and even gender, so I should be okay there. Luckily, I'm working at this point, I'm just working part-time at a local college coaching basketball, and after this upcoming 2018-2019 season, they're eliminating athletics at the college. So if I do lose my job, it's not like I'm losing a permanent job. So I don't know how that'll hurt me going forward if I try to find employment elsewhere. But anyway, I hope this has been a little bit entertaining, probably not very informative. I doubt there's any information for life, and I will probably post it on my YouTube channel, one of my WordPress APBAGo site, and then I have an APBAGo Slack site too, that if you send me a request, I may be able to add you to that group. I'm still learning about it, not very familiar with how it looks, so potentially I can maybe do something there. And that's really about all I have to say, so I will talk to you next time. Goodbye.